couple of years ago, H&K started to import a handgun they called the SP5K. And that handgun was reminiscent of the original pre-ban SP89 or Sport Pistol 89. So they brought in the SP5K, and this is an example of that. They were ridiculously expensive. I found this one used, and my local gun shop gave me a great deal on it because they got it for a good deal. And I did some horse trading to get it, but I've never featured it in video, and I haven't even shot the gun. I just left it in its case. The original owner didn't shoot it either. But when it came out, there was certain excitement about the announcement, but pretty quickly you saw HK fans starting to turn on this little pistol. Now, it's a semi-automatic version of what was known as the MP5K, and it has a butt cap here with two pins that hold the rear cap on, and with a folding stock, it would fold to the side. It would replace this little butt cap with a sling on it. But the complaints that the people had were that it didn't have a threaded barrel or a tri-lug barrel, but neither did the original SP89, and it didn't have a flapper release. It had just a standard release, which is kind of an awkward position for most people to access. Most people prefer the flapper or paddle release of the H&Ks. But also, this one's an early import gun, and this is information I gleaned from HK Pro, but later imports would have a block in there, so you couldn't even install a flapper magazine release if you wanted one. This one, I could install one in there if I chose to do so. So this gun met with a lukewarm reception in the HK community. And many folks thought that it would just be a special edition item and it would go away, and that would be the end of the German-made MP5 semi-automatics, which H&K calls the SP5 series. Fast forward to just a few days ago, and HK announced with much fanfare this gun. This is the SP5. This one has, it's the same size as a standard MP5 submachine gun, and it has a threaded half-by-28 barrel and a tri-lug adapter on the end. It has, which is the Navy barrel, it has a polymer FBI lower, just like the SP5K that came before it, with a safe and semi position with ambi fire controls. It has a paddle or flapper release, which everybody wanted, and it comes with a standard butt cap, which I've replaced with an SB Tactical side folding brace. And there are different brace options available for this. So this gun came to market, and you're going to see these things anywhere between $2,300 to $2,800, and even some dealers are selling for as high as $3,000, which is even higher than MSRP. But the guns are priced to be competitive against other guns that have been coming in the country for some time now, like the guns from MKEK out of Turkey, the Zenith guns. They command a premium well over $2,000, and H&K is targeting those manufacturers with their original German-made SP5. And even POF, which is a lower cost option. But then you have PTR in the United States that just spun up production to build their own versions of this gun, and they're charging over $2,000 for theirs. So you have PSA claiming they're going to make an $800 version, but I've found typically you get what you pay for, especially when you're talking about roller delayed firearms, but that gun still hasn't made it to market. So HK is being very aggressive by bringing this gun back to the United States. And it gives people like me, who foolishly sold their original HK94s and SP89s years ago, another opportunity to own one. This one is a T&E gun sent to me from H&K, and they sent it to me for the purposes of this video. So we're going to load up some magazines. We have 360 rounds loaded into various magazines, German-made, Pakistani-made, Turkish-made magazines, and we're going to have some fun with this brand new SP5, which has everybody really excited, including myself. Let's do a little bit of shooting with it. Here we go, guys, with the first few rounds out of the new SP5. And we just have a mixed match of magazines again. I don't know which one this is. I think this is MKE magazine. And we have some more 124 grain Federal loaded up. Charge it, and let's see how it shoots. Now, one thing I'm gonna tell you right off the bat I don't like about the gun is that they're selling it, of course, as a pistol, which is intended to be fired like this. And for that reason, HK has chosen to put a series of V-notches on the drum versus having aperture sights like on the Zenith guns. So when you actually brace it, or if you SBR it, that V-notch doesn't give you as clean or precise of a sight picture as an aperture does. And for me, if I were to keep this or buy one of these, I would replace that rear drum with an aperture drum because that really drives me nuts. But that's the only thing so far I don't like about it. I like the new FBI style lower and the triangular hand guards, all that good stuff. All right, let's shoot it. Enough talking, right? Wow, smooth and reliable, just as I would expect. All right, grab a different mag here really quick. The trigger's nice and light, and one thing I like about this particular style of trigger is the reach isn't quite as far, and the trigger pull is much cleaner than earlier generations of triggers that were used on various versions of the MP5. All right, very, very smooth shooting. Really, really nice looking gun. Good looking painted finish. All the welds look spot on. I mean, it's typical German quality. And I would expect nothing but reliable function with this thing. If it malfunctions today, we're gonna probably fire around 500 rounds through it. I'd be very, very surprised. But overall, what a beautiful gun. And this thing is gonna dominate in the market space if HK can supply enough of them to meet demand, I think. This is a Zenith Z5 carbine. It has a 16-inch barrel. On the end it has 1/2x28 threads and a tri-lug on the end of the barrel. And this is very reminiscent of the original HK94s that came in. The HK94s, though, had a metal trigger housing and a polymer grip. This one has the later generation polymer grip, but not the same as what the HK guns are with what I know as the FBI grip, which is a little bit more ergonomic. But these are really good quality guns, and they're very close to HK quality. Now, I've toured the factory and I've seen the HK tooling that they've made these guns on. Granted, the tooling's old and probably getting a bit worn, but the guns are still really good, and people that own them are generally pretty happy with them. This one is neat because it has a 16-inch barrel. I know it looks kind of silly, but I remember the long 16-inch barrels of the original HK94s when I was a kid. We have 30 rounds of Federal 124 grain ball loaded up, and this is from our friends over at Federal. They do supply the ammunition for free. If you'd like to pick some up for yourself, please swing by and check out 2awarehouse.com. A bunch of really good guys over there. And so you just insert the magazine, slap it, charge it, and do a little bit of shooting with it. And that's it. The HKs and their clones do not lock open on the last shot fired, but they're smooth shooting, fun little guns. And back in the 80s, these things sold for like 650 bucks. And they couldn't give them away because for the same amount of money, you could get one at chambered in 223 or 308. So the HK94s were never really popular until they stopped being imported. And then the 86 machine gun ban hit and people wanted them for sear hosts. Then the prices on them skyrocketed. Back in the early days of the MP5, they used straight magazines. And I talked about this in my Strybog video. And the Germans started having problems, or reports of problems coming in, that the magazines were unreliable, specifically with hollow points, but even some ball ammunition. And we talked about on Instagram, and I think maybe even in a video with the Strybog, we talked about how the straight mags with the tapered case tend to cause a little bit more internal friction, so heavier springs are required in modern guns to get them to work right. But there's no arguing, at least in my opinion, that the old German HK MP5 stick mags that are straight look really, really sharp in the gun. Yeah, very, very cool looking mags. In the 1970s, they moved away from them in favor of the curved magazine. Now, this magazine has some 124 grain Syntec Federal, and we're also going to try some of the 130 grain PCC ammunition. 124 grain stuff works just fine. In this pocket, I have some of the 130 grain PCC ammo we've had some problems with in other guns, or other gun. Generally, it works okay for us. Let's see how it works out of the HK. Works just fine. This little gun seems to feed everything we send its way, from the blunt nose 147 grain subsonics to the 130 grain PCC ammo to the 124 grain and 115 grain ball stuff. Just a great shooting little gun. Some more 130 grain PCC ammo. Yeah, she works, and she works good. In the case, you're going to get a sling, a nice soft case, and a sight tool so you can make adjustments to the sight. But for me, the sights are pretty much on. Again, the only complaint I have about the gun is the V-notch rear sights. I really wish there's an aperture back there, but everything else I can't complain about. You have the points here for using an HK style claw mount if you'd like, but they tend to booger up the receivers. B&T makes a really neat low mount that puts a pick rail up there for a red dot sight. So there are modern sighting options available for the original MP5, or in this case, the SP5. Most of you have probably seen an MP5 or one of its many clones or derivatives stripped before, but let's go ahead and do a quick field strip to show you what the gun looks like on the inside. First, you're going to want to make sure that the weapon's empty, magazine is out, the gun is on safe. Pull the charging handle to the rear, inspect the chamber, and then go ahead and let that bolt go home. Going to pop out the one push pin. It is not captive, so I'm going to pop that pin out, push it through, and it doesn't matter which side you put it through. On the SB Tactical Brace, they have the pinholes so you can retain your non-captive pin. So once you get the pin out, the caps, even the factory cap, fits very snugly. So I put my thumbs on either side like this and just kind of push back and then wiggle, and it'll come right off. Both the factory end cap and the SB Tactical Brace will be a little bit snug. Once you have that out, you can take your recoil spring and guide rod out. The pistol grip does not have a pin in the front like the Zenith guns, for example. So you don't have a pin here, and this won't hinge down even a little bit. All you do is just pull down, and it's a shelf right here that the trigger pack rests against in the front in lieu of a pinhole. Now you'll also notice that it has, from the factory, the paddle release or flapper release, which is a really nice touch. It's one of the things people didn't like about the SP5K that came before it. All right, so now we're going to take the bolt and carrier out. I'm just going to pull the charging handle to the rear, put my hand towards the end of the receiver there so I can catch it. Just pop it loose, and it'll come right out. You can take the bolt off the carrier simply by turning it. It'll pop off, and inside you're going to find your firing pin, spring, and locking piece. All right, so as you can see, all the parts are very nicely machined and made. Typical German quality. It's really, really neat to see these back on the market. The nice thing about the SP5 is it does feature a Navy style barrel, which gives you 1/2 by 28 threads on the end with a thread protector or a tri-lug adapter. We're going to use the tri-lug adapter here. This is a Zenith suppressor, and it's called a D9Z, and it's made by Arcadia Armament. It's designed specifically for roller locks. Now, I've run this gun with a Griffin suppressor on it on the 1/2 by 28 threads, and you can see that that locks on with the tri-lug. Nice thing about the tri-lugs, they won't back off with use. They don't unthread themselves. So you have both options, running the tri-lug or the threads. Now, I did again run this gun with a Rev 9 suppressor on it, directly threaded on, and it ran just fine. We have some 147 grain ball rounds. These are blunt nose, these are Federal. And we're going to go ahead and show you guys that this thing will feed these blunt nose rounds and run suppressed. Do a little bit of shooting into the dirt so you can hear the gun work. Break one of my ear cups loose here. I can hear a bullet popping down range. It almost sounds like it might be coming close to breaking the sound barrier, but it's still very, very quiet back here to my ear. You can hear the action clicking. It's very, very quiet, and it seems as though it might be a little bit more quiet than some blowback guns I've shot suppressed, and there's almost no gas in my face. No gas. Very, very nice functioning. This is a straight mag, an old HK 1973 date code, and it has more of the blunt nose 147 grain subs in it. Uh-oh, had a malfunction with the straight mag, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is why HK got away from using the straight mags, because this simulates a hollow point, and these magazines were known to have problems with hollow points. So I was wondering if we're going to see that problem. Same ammunition, now in a curved magazine. And the curved mag was HK's solution to that feeding problem. Runs just fine out of the curved mags. Very, very cool. I love the looks of the gun while it's suppressed. Yes, it will fire with the brace folded, for those of you that are curious. Very, very cool. Taking it off is just a simple matter of pushing down and turning. Take your bolt head and your locking piece, and you're going to need your firing pin and spring, okay? So I'm going to pick up the locking piece, slide it together with the firing pin. You'll notice that there's a ridge right here. It's a raised part on the rear of the locking piece. I'm going to take that, and you'll notice how it fits into the carrier. So I'm going to push that in and start it turning. It will only turn one way, and that spring is on the firing pin is pretty stiff there, so it's a little easier to do without gloves. Okay, so now you see I have the spring compressed and the locking piece started. Now there is a notch on the top of the locking piece right there by the firing pin, and there's a pin in the bolt head itself, so you can't put it together wrong. It won't allow you, so don't force it. If it doesn't fit together, don't force it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the bolt head, slide it over the locking piece, and then you'll see how it engages right here. Just rotate it and pull, and make sure it's all the way forward, and now you can put it back in the receiver. Drop the bolt and carrier into the receiver, like that. Take your recoil spring, put it in there, take your pistol grip, and you have that shelf, so you're going to put the nose in like this and rock the rear piece up, make sure it grabs in the front. And now you can take your butt cap, either your brace or factory butt cap, and start it on the slide, on these little rails on the side here. Push it all the way forward until it pops. And now take your pin, and you can push it through from either direction. It doesn't matter which way you push it. Like that, and then do a quick function check, and it's back together. In firing the gun this afternoon, we've only had one problem, and that is with one MKE magazine that the gun didn't like. Now, that magazine worked in the Zenith gun, the MKE gun, but it seems as though the Zenith gun doesn't like the flat or blunt 147 grain bullets. It would not feed those reliably. But the HK made gun with magazines that are either German made or even the POF magazines and even other MKE mags, with the exception of that one, runs flawlessly. We've had no problems with the gun whatsoever, and over 500 rounds that we fired this afternoon of 115 grain ball, 124 grain ball, 124 grain Syntech, 130 grain PCC ammunition, and 147 grain flat nose bullets. All feed with the gun. It runs suppressed just fine, and we've done no maintenance to the gun. We didn't even lubricate it when we took it out of its bag. So the gun runs just as you would expect an MP5 or a German-made MP5, or in this case SP5, to run. Extremely reliable. Now, guys have said, well, Mac, you don't like the roller locking system. That's not what I've said. I've said that the roller locking system is an older, dated design that really isn't used in modern day submachine gun designs. People and companies have opted for simpler designs that are blowback for the 9mm caliber. However, of the roller lock designs, the Germans nailed it in this classic firearm. And that's what I love about the MP5. It is a true classic. It opened doors previously not opened until it came along, and it saw widespread adoption from military special operations to police departments and SWAT teams, and civilians love the thing. And I'm really happy to see that HK has reintroduced it to the US market. So what do I think? I think I wish this were my gun. We're going to fire off a few more magazines here. This one's an MKE magazine. I can tell because it fits a little bit snugly, but we've identified the one problem mag and we've taken it out of the mix. This is some more 115 grain ball ammunition. Love the fact that it has that flapper release. It does stink that they didn't put it on the SP5K that predated this one on import. This is some 124 grain Syntech. And yes, you can shoot the gun very quickly. I love this thing, guys. What a beautiful little gun. All right, and that is the last magazine, guys. If you'd like to support us here at the Military Arms channel, you can do that one of two ways. You can become a Patreon supporter. We have a link down below. We don't get paid by H&K or other gun companies. We are viewer supported. There's a link to Patreon down below. Swing by and check it out and see if you'd like to become part of our Patreon family. If you don't like Patreon, we have Subscribestar too, and there's a link down below. And last but not least, please swing by and check out coppercustom.com. Guys, thanks for almost 12 years of support, and we'll talk to you guys soon. These are actually the last two mags of the day, and this is what we call a garbage mag. It has a sample of every bullet type out here we fired this afternoon. The 124 grain Syntech, 124 grain ball, 115 grain ball, 130 grain PCC, and the 147 grain flat nose subsonic. And this just shows you how reliable the gun is, with a wide variety of ammunition. And this is the last few rounds we had lingering. I think all this is Syntech ammo. That was it. Flawless function, guys. I love this thing.